Hello and welcome to MotorInc First. Today we are going to talk about a new car from Korea. Karthik did not go to Korea to drive this car. That joke I made before the recording started. But before we get into the Kia Carens Clavis and what the word Clavis actually means, we'll just take a moment to thank Apollo Tires for supporting the motoring community. And now for the thing that I really want to know about this car. What does Clavis mean, Karthik?
I did not do homework this time around. Whatever I've assimilated over the build up to the Clavis arriving is has something to do with some Vikings or something. I have no idea.
So,
Beyond
a
that.
Korean car that's on sale in India with a name that has something to do with the Vikings.
Yeah.
Wow, we really are a global economy now, aren't we? No, because I was sort of wondering logically what could the word clavis probably mean, and I said clavicle,
Yeah.
collarbone, remove the uncle. Two of them, clavis, maybe?
Actually, that works because what they've done in some ways is made the Karens less uncle. It works.
Who would have thought
It
that
works.
wordplay would lead you to the right way to think about this car? Okay, let me just set a little bit of Karen's context before we come to the clavis itself.
Okay.
You didn't like all aspects of the Karen's up to about 18 months after the Karen's was launched, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yes.
Can you just explain that?
Yes. Actually, that's where I would have wanted to start because context is important for this one. And I'm going to do a bit of a shumi here. I've thought about how to get this point across. If you think about MPVs as ice creams, then you have the Ertiga, which is like a scoop of ice cream in a cup.
Okay.
It's very practical.
Yeah.
It's convenient. You can pack it up, move it along. It doesn't spill onto your fingers. Cool.
Right.
But then there's the joy of eating that same scoop of ice cream in a cone.
Right.
And it's the same ice cream. It's all the same, but this just feels better, right?
And there's a little bit of pressure on you because you'll get messy very quickly if you don't.
and there's a little bit of flavor from the cone. There's a crunch to it, so there's some additional satisfaction.
Got it.
So the Ertiga and the Carens are both very practical family MPVs, which are more city or urban environment oriented.
Right.
The Carens has been the more premium and the more satisfying car. Both, I would say, while the Carens looks bigger, in terms of functionally the space available on the inside, both are similar functionally. The sense of space in the Carens has always been more, but that's been the Carens speciality,
Right.
about creating that sense of occasion.
Right.
While on the other side of the Carens is the party pack, the Krista,
Correct.
right, which is the ultimate for any family, right?
Correct.
So it's been there. That's very utility focused, available anytime. Anybody who's serious about their ice creams, that'll work.
Right.
Right. And that's how the Carens has dodged being compared to the Krista, is by being the more lavish MPV, the more city focused MPV. I would put it that way, because the Krista's specialness has been its ruggedness, outright ruggedness, SUV-ness practically. So what Kia is doing with the Clavis, and I'm going to do that for this conversation, I'm going to refer to the older Carens as the Carens and this as the Clavis, not the Carens Clavis.
Got it.
Okay?
And there are no Karens in this video, like the ladies who do weird things. Those Karens, they're not in this video.
No, call it the Carens Clavis every time.
Carens, Karens.
Okay, so what they have done is taken the Carens, and the idea is effectively what they've taken is that premiumness of the Carens and tried to dial it up.
Okay.
Now, fundamentally, the Carens is a car, as you know, that I have really enjoyed one specific version of it. So Kia, as usual, has a whole gamut of options in terms of wheel sizes, engine options, transmission options, and we've seen that there's a fair bit of inconsistency in how they end up feeling because of the suspension.
And what he means by that is your enjoyment of all of the versions of the Karenses aren't the same.
Yes.
Some of them can feel very comfortable and some of them don't feel so comfortable, and that kind of variance is what he's talking about. So depending on which gearbox, etc., variant you picked, you might have a feeling about a particular Carens, and he likes one specific variant in there.
Correct. So towards the end of 2024, I drove down to Nagpur, and on the way there, it was just me and my son Sirhan. So we drove practically, I mean, effectively non-stop. We stopped for chai and stuff like that. We even we grabbed we won the Mahasamruddhi, right? So Samruddhi Mahamarg rather. So it was just dead straight road. So we were like chilling in the car, enjoying music, and we had some snacks packed. So we were just cruising all the way there, and we did that drive so easily. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because Sirhan gets car sick.
Right.
On the way back, it was my dad, my wife, Sirhan, me, of course, plus lots of luggage.
Right.
And again, Vanita gets very car sick as well. But this car won them over because they did not get car sick.
Got it.
So the suspension tune on this car was such that they did not feel uneasy. And there is the core pleasure of being in this car is that it feels relaxed and enjoyable. It is that sense of space. It's the seating arrangements in the car. So all of that worked very well, and it surprised us so much that we then called for the Carens turbo petrol back. We got the X line to see have they changed the suspension tune on that as well.
A higher variant than the one you drove.
So we drove the diesel automatic,
Right.
which is the one we used to drive down to Nagpur and back, and then we called for the Carens turbo petrol.
Got it.
Again automatic, and that again I used over the weekend for a shorter trip around Pune, and I did not obviously tell them that this is a fundamentally different car,
Yep.
but I got the feedback immediately saying that this is not feeling enjoyable, right? So the suspension tunes difference can make a difference in how you use the cars.
Got it.
So the Carens had this shortcoming, and I think it could have done a few things better to enhance the experience and make it a richer car as well. And that's what the idea for this was right from the start, from Kia themselves.
Got it.
Right? So now let's get into the Clavis. First and foremost, I think the need to make this a Clavis is a bit unnecessary. It is a Carens facelift.
Right.
They have gone and called it a Clavis to highlight that it is a more premium car, but fundamentally, it's not as much more premium as I had expected, and I'll tell you why.
But isn't this the company that said this is not an MPV, this is something else in the first
correct,
place?
correct.
So them saying that this is not a facelift, this is a more luxurious version, this is right on point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
On point. On point. So that's absolutely on point. So I think what they're fundamentally trying to do is they still have the old Carens. It's available in only one variant, but with two engine options.
Got it.
The base petrol and the turbo diesel. So what's happening is the Carens is getting more popular in the fleet use market. So that older look car
Will go
remains there as the economy.
Kia Carens Tour S.
So they've done the clever thing. Instead of adding a Taurus there, they've gone and made this Clavis,
Got it.
right? So, so that continues as is, but in the lower spec. I think it's the HTE variant. Whatever. I'm sorry, that has the old naming convention, which was premium luxury and this and that. So
Okay.
whatever it is. So that exists for the, let's say, budget buyers or for the fleet market.
Got it.
The Clavis now, the big change visually is the face. It does look cooler. It has the international look now they have for their EVs like the EV9 and all. A very smooth and flowing look. And the idea that they suggested was that they wanted to make it a bit more SUV-esque. So the
Well, naturally, because the industry has no other ideas what to do with anything but make it look more like SUVs.
And they did
You
that-
know, if Apple were to start making their MacBooks look more like SUVs, their sales would double.
Yeah, ruggedize it. So this thing, what they've done is they made the face look more, let's say, square, right? And it is the only dimension that's changed on this car is the length. Everything else is as before.
Right.
And that's because of the front. And that's where the bumper has changed. And at the rear, the tailgate. All the other body panels are the same.
Right.
The wheelbase, height, everything is the same.
Yeah, and which is okay. This is almost exactly how midlife refreshes work.
Yeah, yeah.
Where the front and the rear alter the appeal of the car, as it were, but the side body basically is untouched.
So they've changed the face and it works. They've done some nice things and it sounds silly, but you know, they've got this band of chrome on the front. It's like this, almost like this, you know, dull. It's not chrome, it's dull. So it has a not really satiny finish, but it looks good, right? And interestingly, they've got this kind of cladding on the side as well. And they have it from the base variant, some form of it or the other. So for it to look more premium, they've got these touches all around. So the headlamps, the tail lamps, the new design, and Kia does this well. So it's a better looking car,
Yeah.
for sure, right? It's when you get on the inside that I think that they could have done more. I expected more. They've taken care of the obvious things, like the dashboard on the Carens was this black piano finish on the passenger side. This just panel with a slight texture on it. So it was always this thing that stared at you. And what they've done is they've completely redesigned the dashboard. It's a new dashboard, and they've stepped that experience up. So on the top spec variant, it's like it's a dished out shape. And it has a fabric over there, so it's a little bit more upmarket. In terms of equipment, it's taken a step up. It's got dual digital displays.
Naturally.
But interestingly, they're even larger than the ones on the Seltos. These are 12-inch units, the Seltos has 10-inch units. But this doesn't use the latest gen software architecture, which they brought in with the Cirrus and the Carnival. What they are saying is every new model that comes will get that architecture. So in terms of the layout for the instrument cluster, it's what we've seen with the Sonnet, the Seltos. It's that design and look, not the new modern look that you get in the Cirrus.
Got it. And sometimes the explanation for this is also logical. They're not cutting corners. It could be that the hardware basis on which that software runs well in those cars cannot be retrofitted to this platform yet. So when they have to do a more comprehensive refresh, it can be accounted for and the new software can be rolled out onto this. So the old software will run at least smoothly on this. The new software just wouldn't run so well, so you can't do it. There is a logical reason why they would do it.
Yeah, because when they do a new model, they'll be doing it grounds up, so there they can integrate it better. So they've done that. The dashboard is new. There's new equipment. Equipment list also includes a panoramic sunroof on the top spec variant.
सारे बच्चे सुखाएंगे साथ में.
And they have a chota version
Thanks,
also
Vikas.
for for the lower variants. They have a single pane sunroof, so that's been added. I think interestingly, the addition that was required on this was a 360-degree camera, which has also made its way in. And because this is the old electronics architecture, it still doesn't get wireless Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, which means you still need a cable on the top spec variant. The lower variants have a smaller 8-inch touchscreen.
Right.
That gets wireless Android Auto, Apple CarPlay.
So the manufacturers know, right, that if you were to buy the wireless adapter of Amazon, they start from about 1,300 rupees. I've used 4 of them so far, and I was trying to make a Android tablet work like a CarPlay screen on my bike for a while. I was messing around with it. They all work. And it works on the Alto also. And all you have to do is basically poke the USB port into the car, connect it, and then put a piece of tape and neatify the fact that it doesn't look like there was a USB port at all ever. And then every time you walk into the car, it's wireless Android and CarPlay.
Cool. You should drop a link so that people can use it. Okay, so that's still one of the misses there. Otherwise, the cabin has been beautified lightly. I would say the seat leatherette upholstery is different, and
but the fundamental seat spacing, all of this remains exactly
all
the
that's
same.
the same. And this is the beauty of the Carens, that first, second, and third rows are usable.
Yeah.
Even the third row is, right? Even for adults, you can spend time there. Headroom is good. Knee room is decent, but the second row slides, so you can adjust space. It's not lavish, but it is good enough. It's a practical car.
Yeah, I think it feels lavish. It feels spacious. But when you start actually saying what things are lavish oriented, then there is not a lot going on. It's a very basic cabin in that sense.
It's fundamentally I would say feel-good cabin, but lavishness in terms of the space, like the beauty of the Innova is that gives you that sense of lavishness because of its size of it.
Correct.
Which here, it's a tall car, so you have room, but it's not as wide.
And you
It's
don't
not
sit
as-
tall, so you don't. So when you're in traffic in a car, and you're not like on the Innova, you'd sort of look down because you're sitting in the tall car, but here you sit in a tall vehicle, but you sit lower. So there is a difference.
So it is more car-like in that way. So, but it's a nice balance that it strikes, even in terms of that seating position. And the second row seats is the captain seats. Those we've always maintained are very good from the kind of support they offer. And this time around, we also got to drive the bench version, which is on the diesel. So I'm going to quickly run through this. The diesel is now available only as a 7-seater. It doesn't get the captain seat option at all.
Okay.
Okay. Also, the diesel automatic is only available in one variant. They have removed the higher variants, which means you will not get a panoramic sunroof in it. You will not get you will not get 17-inch wheels. I'm sorry, that's the other change on the outside. It's gone from 16-inch wheels to 17-inch wheels, which is why it looks its stance has improved. The wheels
Got it.
look
Okay.
better in relation to the overall size of the car.
Yeah.
So again, in that sense of feeling more solid, it's helping out with the car. So the stance is improved because of the larger wheels, but that's again for the higher variants. The lowest variants start with 15-inch wheels, and this is such a Kia thing because the base petrol gets alloy wheels, but the base diesel gets steel wheels. And then there's the mid-spec variants which get steel wheels only, but you can't make out. I swear I could not make out because they've got those special designs,
Yeah.
right? So they are actually steel wheels with wheel covers, but you cannot make out. But the mid-spec variants have steel wheels with covers.
Nice. Okay.
And then you step up to the top two variants, then you get like the 17
Actual
inch.
steel wheels.
Yeah. The
The actual alloy wheels.
alloy
My
wheels.
mistake. My mistake.
The actual alloy wheels. So with 17-inch size, right? So the diesel automatic will miss out on those, but you do get the diesel manual in high variants. And this, if you remember when we had spoken about the Alcazar, it had also skipped the top spec. And Alcazar is available in the top spec variant
Correct.
with the automatic, but it missed out on the spare wheel, it missed out on the panoramic sunroof, and all of this is to do with emissions, right? So they have to manage weight. Weight becomes an issue, so they have to remove stuff. So instead, what Kia has done is said, we will not offer it in the top spec variant. Done. This comes in the mid spec variant.
So if the emissions become tight enough, will we get three-wheelers?
I think. Oh, right. Sorry. Wait. Good you brought that up because that reminded me about the weight aspect. This car, while it fundamentally looks the same, what they've said is they've had to re-engineer the top portion of it to accommodate the sunroof.
Yep.
The sunroof itself has added some 30 kilos of weight.
The bracing and the structure.
The overall structure along with that, it's 70 kilos. So the top portion of the car has been beefed up considerably from the A-pillar onwards to deal with all of this.
That's roughly the weight of two children who are outside the sunroof enjoying the breeze until something happens.
So that's the cabin along with the sunroof. One of the things that we used to like on the Carens was that it had those roof-mounted aircon vents. It still has them, but now they're changed for the second row. If you have the panoramic sunroof, they're the slim style vents. Earlier they used to be circular, which is still there for the third row. I'm bringing this up because this is a great car to travel in. And on this front, I have to say, storage in this cabin has always been great. The front cup holders on the high variants are cooled, and I've used them on the go. I'm not kidding you. When after you spend 6 hours in the sun, you get this chill bottle of water.
Yeah, it makes a difference.
It feels so good,
It makes
right?
a difference.
But the one thing that has happened with the new dashboard is it used to have pop-out cup holders on the dash, which was right in front of the aircon vents.
Yeah, like the Jazz used to have it, which was so good.
So good.
Yeah.
So those are gone.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the one practicality trade down. Other than that, storage space in the second row, third row, everything is in place. The boot space hasn't changed. It's
I don't think this was a very large boot if the third row was up in the first place.
200 and something liters.
Yeah.
But for this kind of car, I mean,
It's okay.
It's fine. I mean, it was one of the better ones on this front, right? So
You can just get the roof rack from the bottom model, put it on your top Clavis.
oh, they are. Should we know something I don't? Okay. So
From the Carens Store S, man.
should we start getting into accessories? Huh? He's come up with a USB dongle for wireless connectivity and a rack.
I'm a solution provider, bro. Hey, I mean, think about it. We make a joke about it, but what do we actually do on circles?
Yeah.
99% of the time, you and I are answering people's questions. That's what we do on circles.
Solving.
And sometimes when there is a little bit room to breathe, then we have a thought and then we post a thought. But 99% of the time, it's be somebody who's genuinely stuck somewhere and saying, whatever, add Shumi, add Kartikeya, how do I do this? Right. And then I get a notification saying somebody's tagged you in a thing. And that's what I am, a solution provider as much as you are.
Absolutely, man. You are. No, he really is. So that's good. So that's the story on the interior.
Right.
I may have missed out on a couple of features or something.
So when you say that you felt like it could have been even more luxurious, you would have wanted some more stuff in it?
Oh, yeah. So that's what. Now, you know the Alcazar? The Alcazar had come with ventilated second row seats.
Correct.
Which I had almost assumed that there's no way in hell that they won't make it to the Carens.
Got it.
Right? And that would have really hit the spot for the Carens. But it doesn't have them because its second row has this function where it's one touch, fold and tumble. Because of that, they cannot integrate ventilation function because the entire seat
Understood.
flips and folds away. Right?
Understood.
So they can't do that. But they, I mean, when I mentioned that to Kia, they said that we get it and we're trying to figure it out.
But if you were, let's rewind 6 months ago, and this packaging problem was going on, and you had a choice between a ventilated seat and a one-touch flip and fold seat, you would pick the ventilated
100%,
seat.
100%. 100%. And in this vein, again, something that feels odd, and this is why it doesn't feel like it's made enough of a step up, is like the front, the driver's seat is powered, but it's 4-way power adjustment, whereas the Seltos has 8-way power adjustment. And we've said, right, those seats allow anybody and everybody to find a great seating position.
And quickly.
Yeah, quickly. So they've skipped on that as well. So there are these small misses here and there which just feel like, why did they not come through?
So one obvious way to solve this, in case you need a process Kia, I'm trying to help, I'm not being snarky and rude, is how often will I use this feature is often a good guide to what's an important feature and what's not. So if I'm going for a drive and I have a large family with me, I might flip and fold this seat 2 or 3 times a day. And if I drive 7 hours a day, then that means 6 hours and 58 minutes I will probably be using ventilation functions in a country like India where it's warm. So do I give you a feature that works 7 hours on an 8-hour trip? Or do I give you a feature I use 3 times in a whole day of driving? I'd go with the 7-hour feature. That's it.
Like now that you brought it up, they've got that same kind of control for the Econ, which also doubles up for the media, right? I don't really, I never thought I wanted that, right? I've never said that I want to minimalize the buttons to an extent that there's practically nothing around.
And I don't remember, I've been driven in a few Carenses, and I don't remember that cabin feeling like there were too many buttons or too many screens and we needed to simplify this thing further at all in the first place.
Correct. And in that regard, in the second row, you still have that picnic table and the air purifier and stuff like that. So all that is there. So where this cabin could have become more premium in terms of equipment, I feel they missed out on that. And so it doesn't quite hit the spot that I would have expected from Kia, because they always, on these fronts, they always manage to pull out punches,
Right.
Which you just aren't expecting. So
Maybe there's a Z-line Kia Carens Clavis that you haven't heard of yet.
yeah. So the X line is there, right? And that X line has not been launched yet. So the X line is still to come on the Clavis. But I don't think it'll happen that soon.
That car will have flip and fold ventilated seats, and when it folds and goes against the driver's seat, it doubles the ventilation of the driver's seat also.
I thought you were going to say it'll project it backwards to
So
the
see,
third
like,
row.
as a motorcyclist in a ventilated seat, yeah, okay, whatever.
Actually, you know what? Ventilated seats, I used to always say there's like a little bit of gimmick. But the way things are now, I think more and more people will enjoy and want one.
No, I'm not disputing the utility and actual value of it. I'm just, as a motorcyclist, sometimes I'm like, these are things that are important and we have to discuss this now.
Yeah.
I mean, a motorcycle is a panoramic sunroof if you think about it.
360-degree camera.
It's a boundary-less, infinitely large sunroof, and you're always sticking out of it. And that's why we have to wear all the gear all the time, right?
So moving on to the driving part, we drove 4 different Carenses. The first one that we drove was the turbo petrol with the dual clutch, because that is the one that you wanted fixed, because that's the Carens I would recommend to most people if it weren't for the suspension, right?
This is the suspension that was soft and a little wallowy as you started to get.
It was just inconsistent. So it would feel a little firm at times, but it would also have movement in the third row and stuff like that. So it wasn't, it just didn't feel comfortable or soothing. That's how I would put it. So that was the car I wanted to drive first. And I got out. And in this regard, full props to Kia. They made sure all 4 cars were available, right one after the other. I just went in. I did some 300 kilometers that day driving these cars.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
No, it really does help.
Yeah, seriously.
It really does
That
help.
they make it available is awesome. So I went out in that. So the first thing what they also said that they've improved along with that beefing up of the chassis and everything is they've improved the refinement. And I'm going to put that clip up here and I will shut up because that's a clip
Did you notice even I shut up?
because there's a clip of me sitting in the cabin at the hotel foyer and just having the phone turned on, recording, and opening the door and shutting it. The difference in sound.
Oh, that's the leaky air
Yeah, that's
video
the
that you
video.
were watching while I was
Correct.
working.
I was looking for the clip and he was like, "Why are you hissing?"
Yeah, so I thought he was leaking air and needed a puncture fixed or something because I started to work and it was so yeah, got it. Okay,
So that it was genuinely, and on this front, the Carens has always been very good.
Yeah, it has.
And it felt all the more, and I find it particularly impressive when it's at standstill, because that's like your core sound deadening is then that
Very good, yeah.
right? So, and interestingly, what they also mentioned in this when they were doing the product presentation was that the benchmark in the family is the Sonnet.
Really?
We've always said the Sonnet is so good
Very
on
good,
this
yeah.
front, and they said the Sonnet has been the best, and now we've brought the Clavis up so that it betters the Sonnet.
Nice.
And I still disagree with them that the Carnival is as good. I don't think it is. So,
I would go with Kartikeya's assessment on this.
so
Kia versus Kartikeya. Kartikeya.
that was the first thing at static. I mean, at standstill, that you felt that that's not BS. This is feeling good, and the engine, the turbo petrol, is smooth. It's quiet, really, really nice and pleasing that way. And in keeping with that sense of sophistication, what they've also added as a piece of tech is that it has an electronic parking brake, which is fine, but it also gets auto hold, and that is useful when you're driving in the city,
Okay.
right? Then when I got out and started driving, the first sense was that this feels different. The smoothness is there, the quietness, all of that is nice, but there's something different with the suspension.
Good, bad. Ugly.
Now, I wasn't sure. It was feeling smooth. It was feeling controlled, and this was in Bengaluru. So we were at outside of Nandi Hills.
Right. There's only one road in Bengaluru where you can do any kind of launch at all.
So now we are super familiar with those roads, so know exactly where to go. So just nearby there is then that B road, which is not as smooth,
Correct.
which has potholes and stuff like that. So I went there, and I was like, this is certainly a different setup because they said that they wanted to make the car more agile and firmer. And I saw this, I'm not kidding, I wasn't paying attention. I saw the image later of the presentation thing. I said they wanted to move it up, and this makes sense because this setup has moved it in a SUV direction.
Okay.
To the point where that when I did drive it up Nandi Hills later in the day, I'm like, this is fun. This is not what I expect a Carens or a Clavis to be. Like, to be something that you want to drive fast, quickly, and
stay composed at that speed.
and feel that this is enjoyable as well, right? That is not what I expected.
Right.
So that was the eventual feel of it, but the initial moments was like, oh, because when I got to that village road area and it's broken, you can distinctly feel you can hear the road, like in the sense of the suspension going tak, tak, tak. And this is a car otherwise that's feeling so well insulated, right? So that change from that road condition to this road condition was quite clear. So it could be partly down to the 17-inch wheels, right? Because these are bigger, but it's also down to the suspension setup. And please remember, if you're in an older car, when you're dealing with these kind of roads or any SUV that you're using, if it's sitting on worn tires, all these senses will get amplified and pushed through into the cabin more than they were earlier.
Correct.
And that's what adds to that sense of a vehicle being old. And so the easiest way to fix that is a new set of tires, and getting a right set which balances for an SUV would be to get a balance between road use and rough road use.
Yeah.
And on this regard, Apollo has the Aptera 82, which are meant to serve this purpose.
Yeah, the AT stands for all terrain, which is literally they're designed for that balance.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of time in this car because of that, to try and understand whether I dislike it. right? Is this something I do not like? And the bottom line right now, what I will say is, I cannot say that.
You're
I
still
can-
undecided.
I'm undecided, and I think it's a step in the right direction compared to before, because on that very road, I also spent time in the third row and in the second row. And the one thing that felt different from before was, like you said, that it used to have that sense of
Correct.
movement all the time. Now, because, and what I'd written was, this feels taut. It has a tautness to it. So it's not plush, it's taut. So you hear and feel more of the road, but it's not in a discomforting way.
Right.
To drive, the car, the steering, the performance from the engine, the dual clutch, that engine and gearbox combination is a great
Yeah,
combination.
you said the last time itself it was a very
It's-
impressive
I
thing.
think they are the ones who are now setting the benchmark, as in the Hyundai Motor Group with the direct injection turbo petrols and the dual clutches. So they are,
And this is a transition because there was a dhur seat in there.
oh my God.
See the reaction? So there was a dhur seat in there, and now the dual clutch transmissions are actually working really well with this turbo
Yeah.
petrol.
That was terrible. I remember, man, you're like, this is not what a dual clutch is supposed to be. Anyways, so as a engine gearbox combination, all of that works well. The suspension has gone in a different direction, and it feels functionally to be a step better.
Okay.
But is it a more plush experience? Will it be a more premium experience for people? I'm not so sure about that.
I think that's easy to answer. Just get the car to Mumbai.
Yeah.
We have some incredibly consistently bad roads. And incredibly consistently bad is really hard to do, okay? You have to cast the imperfections into concrete so beautifully. See, once you do that to concrete, concrete doesn't really fundamentally change, right? And we can repeatedly test vehicles over that really bad piece of concrete
Yeah.
and say, that's plush and that's not.
Very fortunate.
It's high tech, okay?
Yeah. So that is, I'm leaving it as a question mark.
Got it.
I think people will be able to travel better in it, but will they be able to feel luxurious in it is the question.
Right.
Which is where we get to the diesel. The next that I went to was the diesel automatic.
Right.
Because the diesel automatic also rides on 16-inch wheels, not the 17s that the new car has. And in this regard, just quickly, when we drove the Alcazar as well, and Alcazar gets 18-inch wheels.
Yeah, I remember.
You remember? So they'd gone again to like this firm, taut suspension setup. It reminded me of that even then I was like, okay, this is...
Is it working or not?
Yeah,
Yeah.
is it working or not? And we still haven't got the Alcazar for test yet, and I'm looking forward to driving it and seeing what it's like in normal use conditions. So anyways, and that applies now for the Clavis as well. So when I moved to the diesel, there was an immediate difference in terms of the experience.
Right.
The suspension is plush. It's that lavish kind of feel. And that, again, the diesel and the automatic combination works well. It's smooth enough. It's not peppy. It's not a car. Again, the difference is this is not the car that you want to drive.
Right.
It's a little bit more laid back in the way it performs.
Here the car remains in the background and doesn't get in your way, whereas the petrol can take the foreground if you want to.
Correct. And it's also in the steering. The steering also feels a little bit slower. It doesn't feel as connected as it does in the petrol. The petrol, there is a difference in terms of that mode when you're
Sure.
behind the wheel. And because this is the diesel automatic, it is in the top spec variant, which means the finish for the cabin was different. It was a darker theme. And oh, I forgot to tell you, it also gets the steering wheel that we saw in the Ciros, which is that new, what they call as the double D cut steering wheel.
Double D cut.
Yeah, steering wheel. Okay. Sorry.
I don't need to even make the joke, do I?
So, and the thing is, it's a good looking steering wheel, but
Wait, hang on a minute. If you take a double D and you cut it, you can only get two things. One is the Chanel logo, and the other is a set of parallel lines.
I'm ignoring everything. I'm just trying to stay focused. Okay. I don't know where this is going.
Just the alphabets, man.
Okay, fine. So back to the steering. Now this is a steering that looks good. It's modern and all of that. But these are the strange things. The switch layouts are reversed for a right-hand drive car.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the infotainment controls are on the right and the ADAS controls are on the left and that kind of stuff, right? So it just every time you're going to use it, you're like, okay, I'm happy to see that you brought a piece of international equipment into this car, but adapt it.
I can imagine the voice notifications. So you'd switch a song and they say your next track is adaptive cruise control is on.
Thought you were going to do an accent. Okay, so
They haven't Indianized the voice prompts. Of course they have.
I didn't try any of the voice stuff, so I like the ADAS.
It's not like a Chinese walkie-talkie. You know? The China one. I don't think this happens to cars, man. Come on.
No. So no, it doesn't do that. So this one was the more simply equipped car.
Correct.
So I'll put a list down of whatever it was missing, like wireless charger, ventilated seats and stuff like that. It had fabric seats. But the fabric seats were so good. In fact, that's the one thing I did not like in the higher spec variant.
The leatherette?
The leatherette. It's the design. I didn't like the design, honestly. It's got ribs going vertically. It just looks a little, I don't know, that's uncly. So, and the fabric seats immediately felt grippy. You were seated well in them. You know, it gave a sense of just confidence.
Got
I
it.
like that about the fabric seats. So they were good. I didn't really miss out on the leatherette part of it. Yes, ventilation is a different thing, but actually with fabric seats, you feel less need for
Ventilation anyway.
as
Yeah,
well.
it's true.
So it had the smaller 8-inch touchscreen, but I could connect my phone directly to it for CarPlay. So that was fine. And in this car also, I spent time in the second and third rows. This is where I spent time in the second row on the bench seat. And the good thing about the bench seat, like I said earlier, was that first and foremost, the reason why I'm bringing it up is we've seen differences in cars that go from captain seats to bench seats where there is a difference in height. So the under thigh support can vary. In this, it feels the same, right? The other thing that I learned in the process of spending time in the third row of this car was that the seat back height of the second row, even in the bench version, is about the same as the captain seats.
Right.
And that means when you're sitting in the third row, your vision is not obstructed. You don't feel claustrophobic there.
Right.
Which is why even in this configuration, it remains usable in the third row. In terms of equipment, USB-C ports were there in all of them as far as I can remember. There was no difference in those basic functionalities. And yeah, that was basically it for the diesel. The suspension wise, I think that this struck a more plush feel than the petrol automatic.
Yeah.
But it's also more plush than the diesel manual.
Which is
the one-
primarily a weight difference thing you're saying.
It also rides on 17s.
And the wheel size difference,
Yeah,
right?
so that one rides on 17. So it was all these combinations. So the 17 felt a little bit more direct to steer than it actually, the difference could be felt. It's a subtle thing, but over time as we drove it around, you could see that the manual, maybe because it's lighter, partly because of the 17-inch wheels, it was just a little bit better to steer. It didn't feel as distant.
Got it.
The manuals, and that's the last part, with the Clavis, the turbo petrol engine is now available with a manual transmission as well, which was not the case earlier.
Got it.
And because the engine is so easy to drive, the manual is it's not tiring, annoying, none of that.
Got it.
It just works easily, the clutch is light enough. So if you plan to be chauffeured around, the diesel or the petrol, the manuals would be good solutions. Now, the one thing I will bring up here with the diesel is that I've had many friends reach out to me about issues with DPF
Okay.
with regards to these engines. And those repairs can end up being very expensive.
Didn't you also say this on the Hyundai?
I think I may have
Yeah.
because they are shared engines,
Yeah.
right? But interestingly, these are friends who have fleets and they've had issues with Kias.
Specifically.
Yeah. So, and I spoke to them about that. And interestingly, they had a placard in the diesels talking about DPF maintenance.
Got it.
So this is clearly an issue that exists. And what I was given to understand was that education is required as to how to manage the regeneration of the DPF, which is basically the cleaning up of the diesel particulate filter. The system does it on its own You can do it in two different ways. One that they told me right now is you can do it at idle, parked in your house, and which is what should be done if you cannot go out and drive it. And this is something that if you're planning to get a diesel for city use, you must keep in mind.
Got it.
Otherwise, it's going to be an expensive repair. And this is to the tune of over a lakh easy if you have something like this, right? So that was one thing that came up with the diesel, and it was good to see that they are trying to address it in some form and fashion, right? And if you are planning to buy one, keep that in mind.
Right.
Okay, so that was the diesel manual as well with the 17-inch wheels. It was again easy to drive. None of the cars feel tiresome. They feel adequate. Because this diesel engine is smooth, and like we said earlier, that its performance has gotten softer a bit, but
it remains functionally useful.
functionally,
It's fine.
functionally it's fine.
Right.
So that's basically the story of the Clavis.
But if the suspension has improved and the space has always been good, is this a better highway car now than it used to be? Because you started out by saying it's a urban focused MPV type thing.
So the diesel automatic, I had realized, was good enough after they did change the tune, and after that it became a good car to travel in. That's exactly what we did with it. And while the Samruddhi highway is a new expressway, it's not the smoothest expressway. There are some sections that are quite bumpy.
Yeah, because you can't lay flat, smooth concrete. I mean, come on.
And on the way back, we actually
Look at the slabs in your house. They're concrete. Are they actually? They are totally flat. So it can.
So on the way back from Nagpur, we had not used the expressway all the way through to Nashik. We exited for Nagar, and so we were on the old highway, and that old highway was in terrible shape. And that was the real test of that setup, because we were caught off so many times, and that suspension could deal.
Yeah, I remember you saying that section surprised you by being in that kind of shape. You were not expecting that to happen.
It was terrible. Imagine on the way to Nagpur, we had done the journey in, imagine with just me driving, it was in 8 hours, means basically just me and Siran, right? We'd done it in 7.5 hours, something like that. And on the way back, it became a 12-hour drive because of the road conditions, the traffic and all of that. So it was definitely not easy, but it managed with a lot of stuff really well. So I think the diesels, I'm pretty certain that they will continue to work well for those kind of situations.
Got it.
And work comfortably, right? So the passengers aren't aware of the surroundings as much.
Got it.
Right? The turbo petrol is the question, whether it can end up feeling effortless on those kind of journeys. That's the question that remains.
Done. That's it.
Yeah, that's it, man.
Okay, let's do a quick summary.
Let's go.
So we're talking about the Kia Carens Clavis. What you should know is that the old Kia Carens is still on sale in the bottom versions, and it looks like it will be the economy buy or the fleet buy if you're a Uber, Ola, whatever. And it's not a bad idea. It was a good, spacious car, still is, and those values still exist. But what they've done is they've upgraded the rest of the line to what they're calling the Kia Carens Clavis, which Kartikeya would like to call the Kia Carens Limousine. But what he's saying is they've not quite upped the level to the limousine level yet. What has changed? The cabin insulation certainly seems to work better. So these new Clavises are much quieter inside. You will be impressed by how much quieter they've gotten. In the same breath, sort of happened on the Kodiaq too. A little bit of the road and the suspension noise does come into the cabin. You're not always uncomfortable, but you do feel surprised that it can isolate the environment, but not the tire and suspension noise quite so much.
In the turbo petrol.
This is the most obvious in the turbo petrol. With the DCT, that's actually a very nice car to drive, and Kartik was surprised by how much fun he had driving the car, although having fun in a Kia Carens is not really what that car is fundamentally about, and it certainly wasn't the last time around. What we can understand what they've done is they have updated the suspension settings a little bit. Kartik is a little bit conflicted about whether it is a big improvement, small improvement, just an improvement, or has it gotten worse. Not fully convinced yet. But the car did seem to be more controlled. And on the turbo petrol DCT, which has the 17-inch wheels, it even felt like the suspension setup was taut. There was less movement at the back of the car, which is a good thing for the third row passengers. But he's still unable to decide from his drive, saying, is it a substantial improvement or not? It certainly felt more controlled than before, and that's a good thing. But when he drove the cars with the 16-inch wheels, especially the diesel automatic, immediately the car felt a lot more plush. So this car's suspension comfort, which was a known issue earlier, and there was a variance between the variants, as it were, where some variants were certainly more plush and others weren't quite that good. Some of that is still going on, and the diesel automatic, if you like to travel a lot, if you're fully loaded, is probably going to be the most comfortable of the Kia Carens Clavises. Here, small word of warning, the diesel particulate filters in Kias have caused problems before. Kia is trying to educate customers about how to actually perform cleanliness maintenance tasks on the DPF. Doesn't require you to open anything, get your hands dirty, but there's a certain way to do it. If you're not traveling long distances constantly, this will be a thing that you'll have to do. And if you don't do it, there is an expensive repair following that coming. You should be warned. There's a reason why we are finding it increasingly harder and harder to recommend diesels to people who drive normally. In the city cycle, this turbo petrol engine has always been a smooth, likable engine. It drives well. With the DCT, it works really, really well. And this time there is a manual version which is also available.
Yes.
But it's an easy engine to drive, which means you're not constantly messing with the manual either. It's also available on the diesel as a manual. And if you've been chauffeur driven a lot, maybe the car to consider is the manual instead of paying all the way out for the automatics. Instead, it's an option that you now have. You didn't have this option the last time around. On the exterior, it looks a little bit more like an SUV. There's a little bit of trim and garnish to make it look a little bit more expensive. But the front and rear have changed. The side body remains exactly the same. The old Carens could be perceived as an oddly designed car or an unusual looking car. It's become a little bit more normal and a little bit more upmarket now, which is not a bad thing. Dimensionally, you said it was a little bit longer than before, but in all the other dimensions, it remains the same. So this was not a super tall car like the Innova can sometimes feel, but there is a lot of headroom inside the cabin, and that's the balance they've still kept. So no real fundamental changes to the interiors, but stuff like the dashboard has been redone, so it looks a little bit more upmarket. You do have a bench seat option in the second row if you want to, and that bench maintains the seat height almost the same as the captain seats, and therefore it doesn't feel like a down market bench. But they've also maintained the seat back height, which means that if you sit in the third row, your view out is not super restricted. So the third row in the Carens has always been a usable third row. It remains a usable third row this time. And if the suspension works as Kartikeya thinks it will, then it'll also be more controlled in the third row on more of the versions of this car, which means when you put your family members there, you're not putting your least favorite family members there. They will also be okay. The Carens was always very well equipped. So I have a USB hub that I use to connect a lot of devices. The Kia Carens has more ports than my USB hub does. It's always had those. There are very cool cup holders that are cooled, and I know that they have value. The one cool cup holder that they removed, and cool in terms of where it is, was just under the AC vent in the front, and they've removed that this time. Not happy to hear it. On the top variant, you have leather seats with ventilation functions for the front driver and passenger seats. Kartik was hoping that the limousine grade Clavis, and the X-Line has not come out yet, would have ventilation functions in the second row for the captain seats too. But Kia has chosen to give you single touch flip and fold seats, so access to the third row is easy, but that's the reason why they don't have ventilation yet. So hopefully it will be 35 levers to pull before the seats flip and fold out of the way for the X-Line, but one touch and you'll get ventilation, but we'll see, we don't know. That's the story of the Kia Carens Clavis. We haven't discussed the price yet. Let's do that now. What's the price of the car?
So ballpark at the upper end with all the additional equipment, the difference is about ₹1,00,000.
No, not much.
So it's not much. So it's pretty much maintaining its price. It was always a good value pick, and
Now
I think
it is slightly more value at a very small increment in price, so that's not a bad thing.
so by and large, it's maintaining that level. So that was the one thing. The other thing that I missed talking about was the option of CNG, which is what will be required for fleets, right?
Right.
So it seems like Kia is working on a dealer fit solution, and there is talk of multiple alternative energy source vehicles coming in the future. So hybrids are in the pipeline, and that is going to happen with the next gen Creta and Seltos and
Right.
that. So a factory fit CNG system is something that will happen, I think, but it's not going to happen immediately. But right now, what should be happening is a dealer fit solution if people want that.
Got it.
Yeah.
But I know why the Carens Clavis cannot be perceived as an Innova rival. Do you know why?
Why?
When you go over a bad road on a Kia Carens, it doesn't shudder and judder in the right way, bro. And until you get that right, how can you have Innova feelings from anything else? I don't know about solid, but body on frame, it's a thing. All this monocoque MPVs and all that.
Doesn't work, huh?
Yeah, no.
I know he's riling me up because I will always come back and say, "Hey, have you driven an XUV 700? That's a monocoque. See how that drives." So
And what are you
something on that.
driving next? The Altras and the
The GTI,
Golf GTI. Ooh.
then the Altroz. So yeah, all of that is on the cards.
That's it.
How about you, sir?
Oh, just the electric access. Yeah.
There's also
The electric version of India's best family scooter. I mean, it's not a big deal, really.
I would look forward to that. There's also the Harrier EV. That is the other one, but that's a little further.
Have the Harrier EV mean Safari EV also at some point?
I think we will also have the Sierra EV.
Oh,
So they have a lot of action. Yeah. So yeah.
okay. Is that everything that
sir.
we needed to discuss?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you so much for watching MotorInc First. We try and cover cars in as much detail as possible based on a reasonably short drive by our standards, because when we test these cars for view and balance stories, we do a lot more with these cars. If we've not answered some of your questions, it might actually be that we didn't have enough time to experience that aspect of the car. But do leave us a comment. We prefer circles because we can track and have conversations in circles. That's on the app MotorInc, and the MotorInc app is free to download. Circles access is free for you. You don't have to pay anything to get there.
Correct.
Some of the content is obviously paid for, and what I think you should explore if you're planning to purchase a vehicle is the MotorInc guide section. The guide can look a little complicated at first glance, but it's literally all the content on that vehicle in one place, which includes Kartikeya's opinions on the car as text, all the videos he's made, including FAQ videos as a set, including any views, any balances, MotorInc First episodes. It's all in one place. And basically you scroll down and you keep seeing more and more content on the car until you get to the price of the car or something at the bottom. And there's a button called Ask an Expert. When you hit that, it's super annoying, so please don't do it, but it actually pings him and me that there is a question specifically for you, and then we are obliged to answer those. So please don't increase our work. Don't use Ask an Expert. Just read the guides and I think you'll be okay. Back to the Kia Carens. If you have any questions that we've not answered, please do leave us a comment. We'll try and get back to you with as much information as we can. As I said, we prefer you do it on the app, but we do monitor all our comments on all our outreach. So it's on YouTube, it's on Instagram, it's on Twitter, and we try and answer as many questions as we can. Before I sign out, quickly I want to thank Apollo Tyres for supporting the motoring community, and thank you to you guys for watching.